لا إله إلا الله محمد رسول الله اللهم رب هذه الدعوة التامة والصلاة القائمة محمد وصلي Press pause on the button and come back. Come back to the fact that when you're doing something right, Allah's okay with you. And when the status quo tells you otherwise, it's tough. Because I glanced through your sitcoms, and your sitcoms are all about how you look. So all you can do, friends, is take the example of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam and try to bring it in the fact that the people who are doing wrong and acting wrong and dressing wrong are the people who are looking down on us. So at the end of the day, when someone is able to pick on you, then you've bought his sale, then you're defending yourself, but you're already eating organic. Because what we eat for our soul comes from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, is nothing more organic than that. So I close and I ask you to kind of take a small message. We don't need a booth to spit the truth. We never needed anyone to tell us what was right or wrong. Let the haters hate. And all we need to do is start to appreciate. All of us need to live somewhere between sipping our fate and when the times get tough, then stand up in a saf. And when this culture tells you to stick your head in the ground and they want you to ostrate, turn to Allah and prostrate. Because every single status quo, every X and O, every gang sign can be turned into one. La ilaha illallah. La ilaha illallah wahdahu la sharika lah. The message is clear. Being picked on is because we do not really look to that which is so clear. I end on one last point, which I wish I could have made. You can't turn to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. You can't know what is status quo. You can't have acceptance from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala if you don't know what He accepts. 4 ayahs before this, 4 ayahs after this. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says 4 times in one surah, وَلَقَدْ يَسَّرْنَا الْقُرْآنَ. And certainly, definitely, we made the Quran easy to remember. So who's going to remember and know what the status quo is? Wassalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah.
Jazakallah khair. Takbir. We don't want to waste any more time, otherwise I'll just praise Wisam, but we have prayer in 15 minutes, so I want to give our final speaker the ability to give his talk. Normally, when you want someone to deliver a speech, you look for the experts, and so this speech is about bullying, and it's normally going to be delivered to the bullies, and so we thought we'd get the expert on bullying. Normally, what color do the evil people in cartoons wear? Okay. Without further ado, Shaykh Abdul Nasir Jangda. Just for the live people.
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Bismillah walhamdulillah wa salatu wa salamu ala rasulillah. So before I got started, I had a question for Wisam. Did your nephews and nieces also pick out the towel that you're wearing on your shoulder? like Did you forget to take the shower? What happened? Anyways, so thought I would start with a practical demonstration of how this exactly works. All right. So, you know, it's a really, really important topic. Imam Yaseen talked about it from a philosophical perspective. What are our deen, the sources of our religion, the Prophet ﷺ and the Quran, the Book of Allah, what they tell us about negativity. Wisam hit the nail on the head when he talked about and he addressed the issue that when you're being bullied, find, like he was mentioning, Brother Harun on the way up here, he was saying, where's your sense of self-worth? And stop looking for acceptance or vindication or approval from outside, from other people. Find it within. And the ultimate source of that is by looking for it with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. I wanted to talk about the bully's perspective, the one that is bullying. And I had like some basic things I was able to find from a psychological perspective. The first thing is that there are 3 basic elements to bullying. The first is aggressive and negative behavior. Number 2, that behavior is very repetitive. So that behavior is returned to repeatedly. And number 3, that there's some type of an imbalance of power in that dynamic and in that relationship. And then there are 2 major categories of bullying, and this is very important. Because when we talk about bullying, what's the first thought that comes to mind? Somebody just say something out loud. You. Other than that, when you think of bullying, what's the first thing that comes to mind? Anger. Hitting someone, fighting, beating up someone, all right? And is that more of a boy problem or a girl's problem? That's a male issue, all right? That occurs more in social circles amongst males. But there are 2 basic types of bullying. The first one is direct bullying, which is that physical aggression. That definitely happens amongst the boys and whatnot. The second type of bullying, which is actually more predominant today, it's the bigger problem and the bigger issue today, and that is indirect bullying. You could call it social or relational aggression. And the biggest arena of that at the moment is online. Cyberbullying is a new frontier. All right? Facebook, on blogs, in YouTube videos, mocking people, making fun of people, creating stereotypes. You know, that's become the new place where you trash people, you make fun of people. Just to give this some context, I recently even saw the new movie that they had out, Social Network. And they even talked about there where like that guy, he breaks up with that girl or she breaks up with him. He goes home and he immediately does what about it? He blogs and says some horrible things about her. That's where that's the problem we're dealing with right now. And that is very heavy even amongst the female population. That's a big problem amongst females and even amongst males today. So that's what we're dealing with. Now what I wanted to talk about was, I wanted to kind of address the bully directly. You know, and make them maybe think about what they're doing. And what are the consequences of their actions? The consequences of their actions on other people are very obvious. You have to be living under a rock. If you're not following the news, that's the only way you don't know about this. But with all the suicides that were going on different campuses, and all the different issues that were coming out of the woodworks, people that are being ostracized, people that are being picked on, people that are being just completely outcasted from their social circles, and the trauma, the effect that it has on those individuals. So you literally drive people to insanity, you break homes, you destroy families, you kill people. And realize today, for whatever reason, because of your own spiritual condition at the moment, if your consciousness does not bother you, you're able to sleep perfectly at night and it doesn't trouble you what you've done to someone, a day will come later in your life, hopefully for your own sake. A day will come later in your life when you'll look back at that and you will cry for what you've done to people. You'll cry for what you've done to people. It will seriously come back to haunt you. It will haunt you your entire life. You'll see the faces of those people that you tormented and you ruined their lives. That's the first thing. But I wanted to talk about the effect of bullying on yourself. What is the bully doing to himself? So first thing, I wanted to clarify one very important thing. And this is important for the bullies themselves and for us as a community and a society to understand that I'm not justifying the action of the bully, but what I am saying is, what we might have to realize is, when one person is bullying another, there's actually 2 victims in the situation. There's 2 victims in the situation from a community perspective. Alfred Adler, he says that bullying is a compensation for deep feelings of inferiority within the individual. These deep feelings of inferiority are embedded within the individual, and that's what's manifesting itself. John Lockman, a psychologist at Duke University Medical School, he did some research on the issue and published a lot of work on the issue. He says that we find that bullies have a strong need to control others. They have a strong need to control others. That's what's driving this behavior, the day in and the day out. And their need to be dominant masks an underlying fear that they are not in control within their own personal lives, within their homes, within their families, and that they mask this sense of inadequacy by basically being a bully. What I'm trying to get at here is that a lot of these bullies and these people that are bullying, and if you're listening or watching or whatever, you engage in this type of behavior, it's usually as a result of some difficulty, some adversity, some trouble you have at home, you have within your family. You're experiencing yourself somewhere outside of the immediate arena where you're bullying others. So if you're bullying people at school, you got problems at home. You're bullying your siblings, it's because you just got beat up at school. They're bringing that frustration, they're bringing that sense of inadequacy, that lack of control of their own lives. They're bringing it and they're basically lashing out at others. They're making others the target of their frustration. Now this does not justify their behavior. This does not justify their behavior. But what it does is that it gives us a different perspective, and as a community, because we've gathered here to talk about this issue as a community, what it does make us realize as a community is we need outlets for people like that as well. We need individuals that they can speak to, places where they can go and they can feel safe and they can regain a sense of control within their lives. They can regain that sense of control. We need masajid, we need community centers, we need youth places, youth centers. And we need, honestly, we need people like Abdurrahman Murphy where they can come and sit down, they can talk to, they feel like they relate to, and then they can talk to them. And they can start to deal with some of these issues that they've been carrying around for a very long time. That's the reality of community. It's an extended family, and we're going to have to make up for the deficiencies or the problems and the shortcomings that we find within each individual home. We can take care of all those problems once we get together, pool ourselves together and our resources and our assets together and work as a community. And so realize that as a community we have an obligation to even rehabilitate, to help, to counsel these type of individuals and people. The last thing I wanted to talk about and say, and again, just directly address the bully. Because I want to motivate you. MashaAllah, Hafiz Wisam motivate those who are being bullied. Told them that don't worry, don't be downtrodden, don't be affected by the negativity that's being pointed towards you, that's being directed towards you. The bully as well, I want to try at least to motivate you and inspire you to be a better person. Look in the Quran. He talked about the messengers of Allah, and how from a very general social perspective, they could be called the ones who were bullied. The man in Surah Yaseen, the man who came running from the outskirts of town. He was bullied, he was beaten, he was literally beaten to death. But now take a look in the Quran as to who were the bullies. Who are the bullies within the Quran? وَإِنَّ فِرْعَوْنَ لَعَالٍ فِي الْأَرْضِ. Meaning he thought he was really big. He thought he was everything. Fir'aun is a bully within the Quran. أَلَمْ تَرَ إِلَى الَّذِي حَاجَ إِبْرَاهِيمَ فِي رَبِّهِ أَنْ آتَاهُ اللَّهُ الْمُلْكَ. Allah says, haven't you seen the one who argued with Ibrahim alayhi salam? Why? Because he was in control, he was in power.